When I was a child, the oncoming Sabbath was a very intangible yet tangible thing. It was noticeable in the atmosphere, and it was contagious. It gave everyone at home extra adrenaline that quickened our feet, so we bustled through the routine chores. It was the melody of our voices as we welcomed the Sabbath with vesper hymns, the promise in the homey aroma of flavorful Sabbath dinners cooked over wood fires, and Mama's baked puddings to die for. These were an entrenched part of Christian Sabbath preparations in my home as an 80s child.
Welcome to the Empty Nesting with Auntie Karen podcast. And here's your host and my mom, Karen Taylor.
Hi, I'm your host, Karen Taylor. Tune in each week for unfiltered, diverse, enriching, and intelligent conversations with me while I take on life as an empty nester, Gabriel's mom, middle-aged woman, Jamaican citizen and consumer, educator, lifelong learner, language and communication specialist, Seventh-day Adventist Christian, and pandemic survivor, all documented from my verdant perch in the rural, not always so quiet, pastoral hills of Manchester. Well, it's 4 decades later. Mama has gone home to rest, and I'm a middle-ager, and I have my own home where I am making my own Sabbath memories. But I ungrudgingly admit that none of my own ever seem to match up to these lingering memories that assail me with nostalgia on Friday evenings from those yonder years. Sabbath Preparations Day, a wave of anticipation whenever the morning arrives, reminds me that the Sabbath is near. And as I wrap up this post way later than I'd planned, I'm cognizant that my guest, the Sabbath, is about to arrive. A guest frequently hosted in my mother's home back there in rural St. Anne. And I'm so grateful to my late mother, Josephine Lewers, for no one better could have taught me how to welcome the Sabbath with such excitement, vim, and vigor. Good evening, everyone. It's Auntie Karen, and welcome to Empty Nesting with Auntie Karen. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you a childhood memory I had of Sabbath, a Sabbath Preparation Day. For those of you who have been following my podcast, you would know by now that I'm a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. I got baptized at age 10 and have been in the church since then. Of course, there have been moments when I fell, but I've never left the church, and I've always remained convicted in my beliefs. But this evening, as I watch the sunset, I don't know about you, but the sunset, especially the Friday evening sunset, makes me nostalgic. And so I thought about, as I usually do, Sabbath Preparation Day, that Friday, that is what Seventh-day Adventists call the Preparation Day, Sabbath Preparation Day. Back then, it's still used, the term is still used now, but you don't hear it as frequently. But back in my childhood, when my family and I, first joined the church, this was a very special day, and all the energy and all the routines and all of the things that go with Sabbath preparation were executed and had such importance. Let me just say, had such importance. This episode is a Sabbath episode, and I want to welcome those of my friends who are not Seventh-day Adventists to take a trek with me down memory lane. I'm going to be talking or sharing with you an article I wrote on my blog. I have a blog called Kids Who Love the Lord, and it was no longer active, but I remember writing this article, this memory I had of Sabbath Preparation Day in my household back in the 80s. And I'd like to share with you 10 lingering memories of Fridays and why I am still attached to the specialness of Preparation Day. Thank you for staying with me, and I invite you to continue listening. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. 10 reasons Fridays still remind me of Sabbath Preparation Day in my mother's house. Reflections from my childhood. Number 1. The still radiant sunsets. If the brilliant hues of a tropical sunset didn't arrest your attention, then the stillness and the buildup of anticipation that heralded the blessed Sabbath most certainly did. Number 2. Welcome Sabbath songs and coconut brooms. My mother's deep and melodic alto voice singing, "Welcome, welcome, ever welcome, blessed Sabbath day." See, I can't go down as low as she could. Welcome, welcome, ever welcome, blessed Sabbath day. That voice would join with the rustling leaves twirling excitedly in the playful puffs of wind as she bent her back and scraped a coconut bunker broom across the yard. Inside, my sister and I would scowl at our hands reddened by floor polish. But we couldn't rue our nails for too long, or Mama would come and investigate. So we immediately returned to pirouetting across a wooden floor, balancing one foot on our coconut brushes and swishing the cloth we were using, which is our quick polishing solution, with the other to achieve a smear-free shine that we could see our faces through when we were done. Number 3, quick Friday dinners. We would have had dinner by at least 3 in the afternoon. My mother made brisk work of dinner. Flour dumplings were kneaded and dropped one by one into a bubbling iron pot lit by the vivid orange flames of an open wood fire. Maybe it was because so many hungry eyes and murmuring stomachs were watching it, but the iron pot made quick work of its tasks to cook its contents. And soon after, dinner was on our plates. Number 4, fourth memory I can't forget, hand-grated potato pudding. As she took off the bubbling pot, my mother would start grating coconut for the Sabbath pudding. Sabbath was not Sabbath without pudding and toto in Seventh-day Adventist Jamaican homes back then. It remained my mother's tradition until sickness took her out of the kitchen, although in latter years she sometimes gravitated to the quick cake mix. Back then, Sabbath puddings were baked over open coal pot covered with burning brambles and coal. As children, we giggled at the name my mother called this baking method, which had been passed down from my grandmother and her mother before her. She called it hella top, hella bottom, hallelujah in the middle. The fire on the zinc covering the pudding being the hell, hallelujah, of course, referring to the sweet results. While the pudding baked, we finished dinner. And as she removed the potato pudding, she shouted for us to go shower. Number 5, Fricasee and Escoveitch for Sabbath lunch. Over an open wood fire or the stove, as I said earlier, she may also have a duchy. A duchy is a deep iron pot used for sauteing and stewing meats that we use in Jamaica. So she would have a duchy of fricassee chicken or a skillet with fried fish, which she would then escoveitch. Escoveitching was done by, drizzling over the finished fish a tangy pickled vinaigrette made with vinegar, sliced onions, hot Scotch bonnet peppers, sweet peppers, and julienne carrots. When this pickle was left overnight to soak into the fish, it was sheer heaven in the mouth. And those of you who have eaten Fricasee Escoveitch fish, you know what I'm talking about. Fricasee chicken or fried Escoveitch fish served with rice and peas, a traditional Jamaican dish of rice and red kidney beans cooked till flaky in coconut milk, seasoned with Scotch bonnet pepper, stalks of scallion, and a bunch of thyme, some pimento seeds, which is optional, and a toops of sugar, was a regular fare on the Sabbath dinner menu, as was bringing home guests for Sabbath lunch. Subscribe now to join my Empty Nester community and enjoy inspiring daily devotionals with fun faith challenges, true stories, nostalgic trips down memory lanes, useful life lessons and advice, penny pinching tips, consumer and lifestyle trends and updates you need to know. Every now and then you can expect a self-improvement tutorial or pause for a cause I care about. You'll also get some random rants on current affair issues. Yes, random rants that grieve a peeve or fire my ire. Unpacked with passion and love. Always 20 minutes or more, but always under the hour, and then I'm done. Number 6. Clothes iron before sunset. My mother would, of course, have catched an iron at the side of the coal pot so it could start heating. Back then, electric irons were not so popular in my community so much. Or maybe my parents wanted to conserve on electricity bills, but my earliest recollection of ironing in my home as a girl looked like this. My mother did most of the ironing. Later, when we were able, pressing our church clothes became our Friday evening chore. In my mother's house, no ironing or other physical labor could be done within the Sabbath hours, and that is after sunset or 6 p.m. Number 7, a hustle, bustle, and happy jigs. Pudding done, she would put out her fire, scattering the embers and throwing water to extinguish the live coals. Still singing a Sabbath hymn or a lively praise chorus to which she often did a happy little jig, she bustled about tidying the house or yelling for those who hadn't yet done so to hit the bathroom for our evening bath. 8. Lockdown. By 5 p.m., all Sabbath preparations were usually complete. Some days it was earlier. By the time she finished, ashy evening shadows would be taking their first strides across a rustic burnished gold sky. Work done. My mother turned in, hustled us inside and locked her doors, sending a message to all within and without her gates that her Sabbath rest had begun. No stranger dared call my mother once she had locked down. "Hey, I'm a Sabbath hours now, you know," she would grumble crossly to any visitor who dared to come and visit after Sabbath hours. In her sunset years, she became less tactless, but she minced no words if her now adult children don't holler the Sabbath hours. Number 9, Sabbath vespers with family. Inside, she gathered us around her on her bed. And those who have listened to my other podcast, I would have remembered that I told you that there were 8 of us in the home. My mother had 9 children, one with an outside partner before she met my dad, but she had 8 children with us. And inside, she gathered us around her on her bed. We knew it was time for Sabbath worship. I often squirmed in misery, wanting to play instead. She pulled out her very worn hymnal and Bible, which, by the way, were never dusty, and started singing Sabbath songs like "Safely Through Another Week," "Holy Sabbath Day of Rest," "O Day of Rest and Gladness," and many other old favorites, some of which are no longer found in the current or new hymnal. Number 10, early to bed, early to rise. Sabbath school lesson review, a devotional reading, and prayer done, we headed to bed. Saturday was church day, and we had to be up early to catch Sabbath school, which started at 9:15 a.m. sharp. My mother could not, under any circumstance, be late for Sabbath school. In fact, she would often be standing on the church porch as a deacon opened up the doors, a standard she maintained to her last days on earth. "Me not late for church," she would reiterate when we refused to budge to her calls as early as 5:30 on Sabbath mornings. She had no guilt leaving her tardy brood behind while insisting that she cannot miss the song service session that precedes the Sabbath school. You see, my mother loved to sing. In conclusion, today, much of the importance, prestige, and impeccable routines once assigned to Sabbath preparations have changed as Adventist priorities appear to shift, families change, and the church adapts to a modern pace. Some of the once strict observances of my childhood have unfortunately been abandoned or become blurred by contemporary activities that come with a fast pace of busy lifestyles and modern conveniences and habits. Sabbath preparations, even while not observed in some homes as strictly as they once were, are still mindfully practiced by fourth commandment keepers in the Adventist faith the world over. And as I said when I started this post, in the city and in the rural parts of Jamaica, the oncoming Sabbath is still a noticeable thing. On a Friday afternoon, you'll see them in the supermarket, a group of Sabbath keepers, not Jews, Seventh-day Adventists, getting Sabbath shopping done. The traditionalists, like my mother, are finishing dinner. Ironing, cleaning, and meal preparation for the Sabbath will be done by sunset. Friday Preparation Day. On October 18, 2019, after battling with dementia and a sudden episode of pneumonia, my mother, the woman who inspired my devotion to the Sabbath, began her journey home. On her preparation day, no Sabbath song came from her lips for the first time in 40 years since becoming a Seventh-day Adventist. But I believe she heard angels calling her. The Sabbath passed with her body growing clammy as she sat silently in a wheelchair at the Mandeville Hospital. She was slipping further away. It was her Sabbath, but all day they could find no bed for her to rest her head. Finally, Mama lost her battle and passed away at midday on Sunday, October 20, 2019. In sleep, my mother had that knowing smile, confident that her date with her master was imminent. All her life she had prepared for and talked about finding rest in her Savior's bosom. Her faith had never wavered. Her Sabbaths she always hallowed. She was well prepared to receive rest in Him. It's my belief that on that glorious day when the Lord of the Sabbath returns, when the rest she had longed for all her life has come, she will be in her element. There will be no competing joy. It's now 4:33 a.m. Friday morning at the time that I'm writing this. 4 years have passed since I first wrote this reflective post. Well, it's now longer than that. The world has changed, but God's Sabbath remains. Fridays are still Sabbath preparation day. Were she still alive when the sun sets this evening, and for her that was always at 6 p.m., even when the weatherman indicated sunset would begin minutes later in her area, like clockwork, my mother would remind everyone around her that it was time for Vespers. The yellowed pages of her hymnal would spin and finally come to rest at hymn number 384. Then her mellow voice would swoom out a song heralding this part of the Sabbath hours. Safely through another week, God has brought us on our way. Let us now our blessing seek, waiting in His course day. Day of all the week the best, emblem of eternal rest. Day of all the week the best, emblem of eternal rest. That lingering feeling, I am by no means as earnest in my Sabbath preparations as my mother, unfortunately. I have to confess. Sometimes dinners don't get done at 3 p.m. and there's usually no warm cold pot pudding in my refrigerator. If I bake, I use a toaster oven. I miss those pungent aromas of open fire baking. I know I'll never be able to recapture that woody aroma of that old-time pudding in my electronic oven living in a suburban town where backyard smoke is frowned upon. I have a gas stove in my home, so Sabbath lunch may not be cold rice and peas, as sweet as that was when I was 10. Yes, I am a victim of modern convenience. Yet, it doesn't change the feeling that something special will happen in hours or so from now. It's now almost 6 a.m. It's the beginning of preparation day. Sometime this afternoon, when that tangible spirit thing from my childhood years, which I believe is nature signaling to us humans, starts making its presence felt, I still can say today, as I said 4 years ago, Friday still reminds me of Sabbath Preparation Day in my mother's house. I feel the itch to bustle and the guilt to hurry in before the sun sets over the mountains. I still feel the need to worship, rising. My house must be tidy. The atmosphere must be right to welcome the Sabbath. And funny enough, despite or because of the Sabbath my mother taught me so well to observe with joy, I now feel the sun urge to do one of her happy jinks. Happy Preparation Day. Are you a Seventh-day Adventist Christian who celebrates the Seventh-day Sabbath and grew up in the 80s or 90s? Do you still do Sabbath preparation routines in your home? Well, in the comments, let me hear about it. Thank you for listening. I hope that these memories of mine did trigger some of your own memories. Happy Sabbath. From Auntie Karen's nest to yours, sending you and your nest expatriates a dollop of godly peace, love, and blessing. Subscribe now. Join the community. Catch you soon.